Zoo Boys, Chapter 13, Part A. There's a spider in the house? Without fully knowing what encompassed him, Dave immediately tried to escape the sticky threads of the spider webbing. His friends not only stopped walking, but backed up about a good 30 feet. Dave tried backing up, going forward, hunching down, jumping up. There was nothing he could do to untangle this wall of webbing. He finally dropped to the ground and rolled back and forth. The rough pavement helped break apart this awfully strong net, but he was still stuck. As his friends stood there, unable to help him, they feared the worst was yet to come. John took his heavy backpack off his shoulder and gripped it tight in his hand. He was the first to notice the builder of this web. The 2-foot spider shot a new web, almost invisible to their eyes. The sun caught the glistening thread soaring from one side to the next. John stepped forward one step and prepped himself for what he was about to do. He said to himself, "You beat the ant, you can beat this spider too." He took another step toward his target. Ron and Jeremy just fell to their knees and watched Dave squirm. They saw where the silky line of web landed. Their eyes followed it back to where it came from. Both shivered as they saw the furry predator preparing to take flight. Like Tarzan on a vine, the spider leaped out into the air, held only by its own rope. As it swung down and across, John lunged into action with his backpack twirling above his head. He let out a grunt, "Oof!" As he made contact, the eight-limbed opposer with the eight-limb opposer, he wasn't sure if he killed it or just sent it flying into the air. He knew there would only be one to contend with because he had read how territorial spiders were. He stooped down to help free Dave. Dave was completely unaware of the spider that built this cage of threads. All he knew was that the more he struggled, the more he was trapped. John commanded Dave, "Hold still, very, very still." He looked up to see if Dave was still connected to the webbing and make sure the spider was disconnected entirely from the whole network. It looked like Dave was being swallowed by a rainbow. The sun showed each fiber, its light fractured into tight little lines of red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, and violet. Jeremy said softly the first thing that came to his mind, "Mother of pearl." Ron whispered, "Son of a rainbow." John kept the strap of his backpack close by, ready to grab it and swing it again if he needed to. Dave followed John's instructions and froze. He laid there so still it caused Johnny to yell, "Is he dead?" John reached into his backpack and pulled out a large hunting knife. He unsheathed it and spoke only loud enough for Dave to hear him. He reminded his friend again, "Lay completely still." Ronnie asked Jeremy, "Is he gonna stab him?" Jeremy mumbled in unbelief, "He might. Maybe putting him out of his misery." John raised the large knife up above his head. As it came down, John first cut the leads that notified the opponent that something was caught. He then slowly and carefully cut Dave free. Dave still laid there, free but exhausted. John asked, "What is it with you and eight-legged monsters?" Dave managed to speak, I don't know, but it looks like I'm finding out. I guess I got a serious octo issues. Octa problems, John proclaimed as he stood and offered Dave a hand to help him get up. He made eye contact with him, but then looked around for the spider itself, the one Dave never even saw coming. As John resheathed and put away the knife, the other two boys moved forward quickly, cautious, and quietly. Ronnie broke into a song by Gary Shutt. They had all heard it over and over again on their favorite local radio station. The boys used to sing along with it every time it was played. Ronnie didn't stop to consider if now was the best time to sing it or not. He just sang anyway. There's a spider in the house. He thought singing that may lighten the mood, but Dave did not find it amusing at that moment. Ronnie stopped after the first line in the chorus. Dave's voice was more raspy than normal. That web was strong. John confirmed. Yep, normal spider webs are bad enough, but the one that spun this one was colossal. Dave didn't realize the other boys had actually seen the artists of this creation. Jeremy asked, wasn't there a guy who mixed ground up glass with spider webs to make bones for people dying of bone disease or bone cancer or something? John was perhaps a little over-enthusiastic to share what he knew. Botswana, Africa has a spider that weighs a whole 1 ounce. He realized that he was yelling, so he lowered his voice. Yeah, it can stand, walk, and even run 3 feet per second on top of water. Yeah, they call it the fishing spider. What he shared was not helping calm Dave. His response came back at John sarcastically. Oh good, tell me more. John went on. It can capture fish, even 5 times heavier than its own weight. Dave reprimanded John. I was being sarcastic, jerk. Jeremy offered. Hey, think of it this way. We just beat 2 8-legged animals. First the octopus, then the spider. Ronnie tried to help. Yeah, you didn't even get eaten by either one of them. They sure tried. You beat them at their own game, bruh. That somehow made Dave feel more heroic. John kept his mouth shut as the rest of what he had read about the fisher spider flooded his mind. It injects poison into fish that swim under it, lets the poison take its effect, then pulls the fish up onto land to eat it, consuming every last piece. John also recalled what Jeremy was talking about, Bite to the Bone, a fictional story he read that mixed in just enough truth to make it interesting and enough to read. It was a fact that they have mixed crushed or finely ground up glass beads with spider webbing to make bones, but the story goes on, captivating the imagination of being able to use that new combination of material to replace people's infected bones. Although fictional, who knows what scientists and doctors working together may be able to do in the future. Dave stood to his feet and brushed himself off, took a deep breath of relief, then smiled at Ronnie as he belted out in song, There's a spider in the house. The others joined in song as they continued to not only walk, but dance down the path. They were almost skipping as they sang the hook of the song over and over again. The ongoing song really worked at occupying the boys while they strived to get to their final destination for the night. That concludes Chapter 13, Part A. On to Part B.